What is up, YouTube? Let's talk about resampling leads and synth sounds to create endless variations of what we've already created for our tracks. So on a previous episode, I went through creating this sort of like robotic lead in Dimitri Shesh's Thorn plugin. It's a really, really awesome plugin. You should definitely check out that video if you do like the sound. So the idea of this video is to take a sort of lead or synth sound that we've created, like the actual loop or wave file, and create a bunch of variations using just the sample of the sound itself, not going back into the synthesizer. I find this is a very powerful way of creating variations because you kind of like concrete the sound that you've already created, so you can always fall back on it as a sort of, in case you kind of go a little bit wild. Anyway, I'm going to show you guys a couple of techniques that I use. So first things first, what I do is, let's just put this into a group channel and we can call this Thorn Robotic Lead. So then what I like to do is create a duplicate of this, and I'll just mute the first one. That way, no matter what I do to this sound, I'll always have that kind of original to go back to in case I kind of go a little bit crazy or something like that. So let's have a listen to the loop that I've got so far, and then I'm going to show you a couple of these sort of resampling tricks that I use. So the first and probably the most common sort of resampling technique that I use is the Scissor Tool. And there's various ways I like to kind of like apply this sort of technique. I either like to apply it to the sort of overall like rhythmical kind of pattern and shift the pieces like forward or backward or something like that. But I also like to cut out the exact chunks of the audio. I'm going to show you a quick way of doing that in a second. So first, let's go ahead and we can actually just hold Alt and Scissor Tool at the first kick. And what this does now is it kind of like cuts the loop that we've created periodically at that sort of kick. So now we can go and we can, if we want, we can rearrange some of these, maybe move some backwards or forwards or something like that. So we might want to just switch this over to adapt to zoom. So we can move this like forward one or back one or something like this. And here I like to actually just go wild, create like completely different rhythms to what we had originally. A quick trick to do this is also to use the Control and arrow key hotkey. So what that allows you to do is, say for example, if you select one of these like chopped files and you press Control left arrow, it moves it one quantized step backwards or one quantized step forwards. And this is quite an easy way to quickly sort of like go through the sound and create all these like different variations, without having to kind of like select each one and move it and zoom in and check if you're on the actual sort of like quantized section and whatever. So I'm going to play the audio while I go through and just create a variation of these rhythmical patterns. Oh yeah, so quite a cool thing to do is to duplicate some of the sections and, maybe even do something like that, where you duplicate it and then cut it and duplicate it again. So you're kind of like creating this like faster movement in the sound. What I like to do as well is to vary it, maybe not go on sort of every kick, but let's say, for example, do a kind of 3/4 or it would be triplet or whatever kind of system where we cut it at the 6th, if that makes sense. I don't know if I'm blabbering nonsensibly, but I'm sure those who are following the picture on the screen would be able to understand what I'm saying right now. Anyway. Cool, then once I've got like a pretty cool loop going, I will Control right click or right click depending on what settings you've got, and then just events to part. And then this allows me to quickly like duplicate it to see if it'll work over the entire bar It also allows me to quickly kind of create these sort of breaks and stuff without disturbing the sort of entire rhythm that I've kind of created there. So this might not be perfect. The idea here is to kind of keep doing this and keep creating these kind of variations, and then cherry pick the best ones. We can then, add a filter onto this and use this first part to maybe bring it into the second part or something like that. We've now created kind of like two separate lead lines which kind of share similar characteristics. So, when you listen to the one and then the other, they're going to kind of occupy the same space when you're listening to it. So I'm actually going to mute this and let's create another variation. So I'm going to duplicate the first one that we created and unmute it. So I want to show you guys a trick called hit points. So if we zoom into this audio over here, and down on the left-hand side, like here, we can open this hit points menu. And you'll notice that it's created these kind of like chops on every hit. So it automatically detects them. You kind of can set the threshold here as well to kind of fine tune it if you want, but it seems to have done quite a good job here already. So then what we can do is click this create slices, and it's created a new sort of part with all these slices in it. So we can now, let's just make this loop a little bit smaller. So there's various things we can do. So if you listen to kind of like this rhythm, it's made up of two main sort of sounds. There's like a long sound and a short sound. If you want to speed up the sort of rhythm of your track, what a cool trick is to do is to remove a bulk of the longer sounds and replace them randomly with shorter ones, just like this, I'm just going to play through it while I go ahead and edit a bunch of these. Awesome, that's actually very cool. I might just use that for this track. So we can also do the opposite and only use the long notes, and it'll sound something like this. I'm going to fast forward. Cool, once you've got your kind of like rhythm going, it certainly helps to select all of the audio files and then just use this fade out at the top here to make sure that there's no clicks. So each one has a slight fade out at the end of the audio file. So that is pretty much how I generally use the Scissor Tool. I'll apply, filters and all sorts of stuff to kind of like span these different variations out over the entire track. I will often run them all through the same group to apply the same sort of like reverbs and EQs and stuff like that, because essentially they are the same sound, so the tone and stuff is the same. The only differences are that, it's the sort of placement and the arrangement and the sort of energy that's changing in these sounds. Awesome, I hope you guys enjoyed that. Stay tuned for the next episode on some tips and tricks on how to resample some leads and synths to recreate a bunch of different variations for your tracks. A big thanks to IDM Mag, proud supporters of the dance music scene and my channel. If you enjoyed this video, let me know in the comments. As always, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. See you guys next time.